black balaclavas on a London rooftop, airport corridors under fluorescent lights, a SWAT stack stacked tight against a hotel door, a video game lobby where half the round still reaches for the same silhouette. For more than half a century, one submachine gun has meant the same thing in all of those places. Not chaos, not quantity. Control today. The story of why the Heckler & Koch MP5 is still so feared, and why a gun built in the mid-60s refuses to leave the room when lives are measured in meters, not kilometers. To understand the fear, you have to understand what came before it. By the early 1960s, the submachine gun had a reputation problem. World War II had turned pistol-caliber automatic weapons into stamped metal and hope. The American M3 grease gun cost roughly $15 a copy. Britain's Sten was basically a tube with a magazine welded on the side and a prayer that the welds held. The Thompson was already drawing its pension. The Sterling was an improvement only if your baseline was the Sten. These guns worked. They also bounced. Most of them fired from an open bolt. Pull the trigger and a heavy lump of steel slams forward, strips around, chambers it, and fires all in one violent shove. You are trying to aim while a brick is sprinting toward the muzzle.
Center mass.
Single shots wander. Full auto climbs like it has somewhere better to be. Accuracy was a rumor. Controllability was optional. And there was a second problem nobody talks about enough. The SMG rarely shared a manual of arms with the service rifle. Train a soldier on an SLR or an M14, then hand him a tube gun with a different safety, a different mag release, a different charging handle, and a different everything. Muscle memory did not transfer. Under stress, that gap gets people hurt. What the world needed was not another cheap stamp job. It needed a pistol-caliber weapon that behaved like a proper firearm. Enter Heckler & Koch. HK already had gold on the books, the G3 battle rifle. Roller-delayed blowback, borrowed and refined from wartime German thinking that traced back through designs like the MG42 lineage. Accurate, tough A family platform, waiting to happen. So in 1964, they started scaling the idea down. The internal name was HK 54 Selective Fire Carbine in a handgun cartridge, under HK's naming logic. Chambering, 919 Mimini Parabellum. Same roller-delayed idea as the big rifle. Same closed bolt discipline. Same family feel in the controls. By 1966, West German border police and special units had it. Briefly, it wore the designation MP64. Then it became what the world would learn to say in 3 characters. MP5, Maschinenpistole 5. No fireworks. No global press tour. Just a quiet German answer to a loud problem. What makes it special is not a slogan. It is physics you can feel. The MP5 fires from a closed bolt.
Agile,
The round
versatile,
is
and ready.
before you
The
press
Canadian
trigger.
Special Operations
When the
deploy
guns
anywhere,
are up,
multi-mission,
rollers in
and
the
operate
bulkhead
under any
delay the
conditions.
opening just long enough for
Whether
pressure to
permissive,
drop.
contested,
Then the
or
action
hostile.
cycles.
No matter the adversary or operational and strategic effects in support of Canada and Special Forces operators and Special Forces officers are skilled in special warfare, special reconnaissance, often working in small teams. Their missions can evolve with defensive actions with lethal and non-lethal effects.
At 25 meters,
In an
a
entirely new
competent
direction.
shooter can keep groups
As an
inside
aspiring
a fist.
Special Forces operator
At
or
100
officer,
meters
you
range,
faces
where
challenges
most
head-on and is
pistol-caliber
never
guns
satisfied
are
with the
wishing
status
to
quo will
survive,
be
they're
critical
still
to your
making
success.
precise hits that would embarrass a lot of handguns.
Discipline and resilience to hone your craft
Cyclic
and
rate
master
sits around
every
800
fundamental
pounds
aspect
of
and use
steel.
exceptional problem-solving
Fast
skills,
enough to be
resourcefulness,
decisive,
and
soft enough
adaptability
to
to
stay
overcome
flat
them.
if your stance and grip are honest.
You will do none of this alone. Opportunities for the regiment and
Stories
advancement
pile up
are
the way they do
fundamental
with
to the
tools
regiment's
people
success.
trust.
Parachuting,
Tens
to
of
explosives,
thousands of
to
rounds
advanced
between
medical and
stoppages
technical
and
training,
well-run
to
guns.
ensure that they are
Their
ready for their
rifles
next
reporting
mission.
receivers and
Because it's
barrels
not a
that
matter
simply
of if they
refuse to
deploy,
quit.
it's
Drag
when.
it
If
through
you are
mud,
ready to engage in
sand,
high-stakes
cold,
operations
heat
that
within
demand
reason,
unparalleled
keep
skill,
working.
become part of a proud tradition of excellence
was
that
not a
traces
truck
its
parts
lineage.
engine.
Interested Canadian Armed
First
Forces
tolerance is
members
a
can begin the
shrug.
application
This was
process by
machine.
submitting a notice of intent.
Then the family trick. If you already knew the G3, the MP5 felt like coming home. Charging handle up front on the left. Same General Motion rack, and the HK slap to send it home became muscle memory, and later cinema, paddle magazine release support hand expects it. Selector in the same neighborhood as the rifle. Ambidextrous options arrived and spread. Disassembly logic tracked the bigger gun. Hand a squad the G3 and the MP5, and you are not teaching two religions. You are teaching one church with two hymn books, 15 or 30 round magazines. Roughly 2.5 kilos empty on a full-size gun. An effective fight distance that lives in the ugly spaces stairwells, airframes, ship corridors, embassy hallways where rifles are long and pistols are hopeful. The MP5 did not merely beat other submachine guns. It moved the category ceiling. Fear, though, needs a stage. On the 30th of April 1980, 6 armed men stormed the Iranian embassy at Prince's Gate in London. 26 hostages. Demands, days of negotiation under the world's eyes. On the 6th day, the gunmen murdered a hostage and dumped the body. The message was clear. Talking was over. Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher signed off on military action. Control passed to the SAS. The operation had a name, Nimrod. At 1923 on the 5th of May, it started. About 30 men from B Squadron, black kit, gas masks, frame charges, stun grenades. Some abseiled from the roof, others blew in through windows. Live television caught fragments of it, the silhouette that would define a generation of counter-terror imagery, dark figures, controlled violence, and in their hands, the MP5, some with lights riding on top. 17 minutes. 5 gunmen dead. 1 captured. 19 hostages out alive. 1 hostage killed by the terrorists during the chaos of the assault. The building burned. The myth did not. Overnight, the SAS stopped being a rumor in the public mind and became a brand. And the gun in those gloves stopped being a West German police MG and became the international badge of the people who do the hallway work when politicians run out of options. That is the root of the fear. Not because the MP5 is magical, because for decades, when you saw one indexed on a doorway, you were probably looking at professionals who had chosen the tool that lets them hit the hostage taker and not the hostage. After Nimrod, procurement officers and unit armorers voted with purchase orders. Germany's GSG-9 already lived in that world, the post-Munich answer to modern terrorism, and the MP5 fit the doctrine like it had been measured for it. France's Gine. America's Navy SEALs, who got maritime-minded variants with corrosion-conscious details and ambidextrous controls, the MP5N line. Police tactical teams from capital cities to airport authority units. Protective details. Ships boarding teams. The list of adopting countries runs past 40 nations when you count police, military, and specialist users together. Licensed production spread the pattern even further. Elite adoption is social proof. The MP5 collected it the hard way in stairwells. Right, the gun itself, and the children it grew. The full-size A2 and A3 gave you the classic choice, fixed stock or collapsing stock. Later trigger groups added timed bursts for units that wanted discipline built into the fire control group. Claw mounts, and eventually, rail culture dragged a 1960s receiver into optic modernity without throwing the soul away. Then, the specialists. The MP5SD, arriving in the mid-1970s, is the quiet argument. Integral suppressor. Ported barrel and baffle work that can take standard supersonic 9 meter and bleed velocity down below the sound barrier, killing the crack that betrays so many suppressed guns running the wrong ammo. Quiet, accurate, the kind of weapon that changes the sound of a room before it changes the occupancy. The MP5K Kurtz, short-landed in 1976 for close work and concealment. Barrel down around 4.5 inches. Overall length that can hide under a coat.
This is the MP5
thriller
firing from a roller
inside
locking
a
bolt.
purpose-built briefcase.
It's air-cooled
Later PDW-minded versions added folding stocks and threaded muzzles for
The Navy SEALs used this weapon for close-quarter battle, being a submachine gun terrorist, light, and special reaction teams all around the world.
Caliber side quests
and we spot our adversaries. There's two ways we can take them out with this weapon.
For agencies chasing different terminal numbers. Semi-auto cousins for markets that needed the handling without the full auto paperwork. Over 100 catalog forks, if you count stocks,
A quick
trigger
2 shots
packs,
to the center mass.
handguards, and regional
If he doesn't
builds.
drop, another one.
The platform
Right to
is
the-
not a single gun. It is a toolbox that kept answering new questions without abandoning
Fire
the
this
first
weapon.
answer.
Where you will fire a
Culture did
controlled
what culture
3-round
does.
burst to the center
The
mass.
SEALs carry very sophisticated firepower, but
Cinema
sometimes the
learned
weapons
silhouette
can
fast. Terrorist crews and tactical heroes alike got issued MP5 shaped
SEALs carry a 9mm pistol as their secondary weapon.
Code, serious people.
We use handguns
close range,
primarily
no
as a
mess
secondary
if the
weapon.
shooter is
Our
good.
primary submachine gun. If
Die
that weapon
Hard
were to
helped
go
lock the
down,
image into popular
we'd be able to
memory,
instantly
even when
employ.
the cameras were sometimes looking at semi-auto cousins dressed for the part. The shape was enough. Games finished the job. Counter-Strike put the MP5 into a million hands that would never hold the steel. Call of Duty,
Being a
Rainbow Six,
9mm, some
and a
people
shelf
might
of
say,
tactical shooters
well, it's
for
only
a
9mm,
generation
one
of
through your
recoil
head.
picture,
You won't know the
sound,
difference.
and yes,
And
the
neither will the
target
enemy.
angle slap. In pixels and in prop houses, the MP5 stopped being only a weapon and became visual shorthand for competence. That loop matters. Operators made it famous. Culture made it inevitable. The next generation of operators grew up already wanting it. Honest limitations. Hear me out. 9mm is not a rifle cartridge. Soft body armor and intermediate barriers have been teaching that lesson since the late 90s. The 1997 North Hollywood bank shootout burned into American law enforcement memory for a reason pistol caliber duty guns struggling against armored suspects while the public watched. Afghanistan and Iraq then spent 20 years rewarding rifles, reach, barrier performance, shared ammo with the rest of the stack. So SWAT teams migrated toward short 5.56 carbines. The FBI moved off some of its specialized MP5 pattern guns toward Colt carbines. Even Tier 1 units that once lived on roller, delayed 9mm found themselves running short ARs and HK 416 pattern rifles for a lot of the work. HK tried to parent a successor on purpose. The UMP arrived at the end of the 90s polymer, lighter on the brochure, cheaper to manufacture, modular caliber dreams and 9mm, 40 and 45. On paper, the sensible modern replacement. In the hand, a lot of testers came back with the same shrug. Simple blowback is simpler. It is also snappier. The refined flatness people loved in the MP5 did not fully survive the cost-cutting physics. Lighter and cheaper are real virtues until the moment you need the gun to hang on a headshot in a hallway full of civilians. Plenty of agencies bought UMPs for specific niches. Very few used them to write the MP5 out of the armory. PDWs tried another door. Fenn's P90 and 5.728. HK's own MP7 and 4.630. Armor-piercing ambition for troops who were not riflemen. NATO politics and split results left both in specialist lanes rather than on the throne. The MP5's kingdom shrank. It did not collapse. And rifle-caliber carbines
for
brought
growth
their own
and
bill.
advancement are fundamental to the regiment's success. Parachuting, to explosives, to advanced medical and technical training, to special forces operator next mission. Because it's not a matter of if they deploy, it's when. If you are ready to engage in high-stakes operations that demand unparalleled skill, become part of a proud tradition of excellence that traces its lineage. Interested Canadian Armed Forces members can begin the application process by submitting a notice of intent.
Into the next room. So the MP5's modern job title changed. General issue dream faded. Surgical tool current. Where does that leave it now? Still in production in the broader family sense, still on belts and in racks across police and military special units worldwide. Still the gun you see when a European counter-terror team hits a train, or a maritime unit clears a ladder well, or an airport package needs something more decisive than a pistol and less architectural than a rifle. Midlife improvements, rails, optics, modern furniture, the receiver keeps taking updates. Flat, dark Earth clones and clones of clones prove the silhouette still sells. Sweden's police talking about shifting toward 5.56 platforms is real news. And it is also the same story playing in slow motion everywhere. Armor and vehicles pull doctrine toward intermediate cartridges, while the MP5 holds the missions where overpenetration and muzzle energy are the enemy. There is even life in odd corners of the cartridge world ideas, like neck-down 9mm armor-piercing concepts that keep MP5-like handling, while chasing harder targets, but cost and logistics always get a vote. The point is simpler than the catalog. The MP5 is no longer trying to win every fight. It is trying to win the fights where missing is unforgivable. So why is it feared? Not because it is the most powerful thing in the stack. It is not. Not because it is the newest. It is older than most of the people carrying it. Not because it wins spreadsheet shootouts against short rifles on a 200-meter range. It does not. It is feared because of what it signals. 60 years of closed bolt discipline in a world that used to accept open bolt chaos. A roller-delayed action that turns full auto into something you can steer. Controls that respect the way soldiers already think. A live television baptism in London that taught the planet what modern hostage rescue looks like. A culture machine that made the silhouette mean professional before the first round is fired. And a refusal to be replaced by cheaper guns that were only almost as good. When an MP5 comes up on a breach, the fear is not really about 9mm ballistics. It is about the training behind it, the doctrine behind it. The cold knowledge that the people holding it chose a weapon famous for hitting exactly what they aim at, in rooms where the wrong hit ends careers, governments, and lives. Crude SMGs made noise. The MP5 made a standard. Imitators filled catalogs. The standard stayed German, roller-delayed, and stubborn. 3 characters. 1 reputation. Still earned. If you want the next deep dive into the guns that build modern special operations, hit like, subscribe, and take a look at the video on screen. There is more in the armory.